Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's I, the Reluctant Gringo, back again with another video, and today, well, let's talk about the Oscars. I had a bit of time to look at the early reactions, just like yourself, and I sense a theme, a pattern, if you will. Most of the descriptions, especially on YouTube, have been non-committal to negative, and each commentator has tried to give their opinion as to why Hollywood's biggest night was a bust, and most have missed the mark entirely. To understand why the Oscars no longer break ratings records or connect with a larger audience anymore, we must look at the bigger picture. This year's Oscars was the fourth lowest rated show in its history, only increasing in viewership by 4% over last year. Because of these numbers, people keep asking themselves in the media, what's so wrong with the Oscars? What's so wrong that it can no longer generate the type of audiences like it did in 1998 or 1983? The only two times the show averaged over 50 million viewers. You see, there is this myth out there that the Oscars is some sort of Super Bowl-like event. I've even heard it referred to by some YouTubers as the gay Super Bowl, and it's not. The Super Bowl this year averaged over 50 million viewers in the female demographic alone, where the Oscars struggled to get 20 million viewers overall. But what about those two outliers? What about 1983 and 1998? What happened that year to make them so special? Well, 1998 is easy. You had the movie of the decade, Titanic, up for all the awards, and Billy Crystal, probably the best host in the history of the Oscars, helming the ship. We were pre-social media, pre-9/11, pre-Orange Man syndrome by about 20 years. In fact, back then, Hollywood loved the guy. 1983 is even easier to peg down. Only a couple of years into a new decade. Out of the Cold War nuclear anxiety of the 70s into the hardline nuclear anxiety of the 80s with President Reagan. America and the world embraced the film Gandhi, with actor Ben Kingsley turning in a performance of a lifetime. The idea of peace through nonviolence was something every human being could get their arms around at that time, because believe it or not, our reality was that nuclear war could happen any day and we'd all be obliterated in a mushroom cloud. And there were 4 hosts that year: Liza Minnelli, Walter Matthau, Dudley Moore, and all 3 of them are very capable performers. But the 4th one alone is enough to get anyone who knows enough about the history of comedy to tune in. Richard Pryor. That's right. Maybe the greatest stand-up comedian of all time, certainly a member of the Mount Rushmore of comedies, was sharing hosting duties. Richard Pryor, on stage, live, with a microphone, and no 7-second delay at the time? Hell yeah, sign me up. He could be reading the menu from the local Chinese food restaurant, and I'd still sit and watch. Let's compare this to the lowest rated Oscars of all time. 2021. Nomadland won Best Picture, and there was no host. So an award show that had no host to guide the ship, no Best Picture nominee to be excited about, outside of Hollywood the economy was in free fall, inflation making it difficult for people to buy groceries, a political division that was so palpable you could taste it in the air, and that division on full display by millionaires who want to be politicians instead of entertainers. And really, it's been all downhill from there. If you want to see the moment when the real world and the make-believe world separated, it would be 2021. Social media was and is still the dominant form of communication, and everyone was using it to inform others about their opinion, including celebrities. And then, the Great Division showed us exactly just how out of touch Hollywood is with the rest of us. The country was still in the midst of tearing itself apart, and for some reason, Hollywood had turned on the general public, telling us we are to blame and that we should do more. 2021 was not only the Great Division, but it was the beginning of the Great Revelation. The revelation that Hollywood has no clue about what reality really is, or how to connect with most of the country, or understand how average citizens truly feel about things. Hollywood is extreme, it is bullying, it is elitist, it believes it knows better, and the biggest reveal of them all? It really doesn't like you very much, calling us toxic for not liking the majority of products they were pumping out. Just a few short years later, the Oscars in Hollywood are stuck in neutral. Stuck because for a while, they had it good. They had Some of You Fooled. They had superhero movies and billion-dollar successes. Except the air in that balloon was let out, and for the past few years now, Hollywood is losing what it loves more than its ego. It's money. So the 2024 Oscars were not safe, as some of you put it. It was boring. It was predictable. It had a host who was unlikable by average Americans. It was a forgettable show with the exception of 2 moments. The humiliation and emasculation of John Cena, who I think forgot that most of his fans are children, and Michael Keaton, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Danny DeVito, being more entertaining in 30 seconds than most of current day Hollywood could be in a 90-minute film. In a word, the Oscars are stuck in neutral. This show has always been a compass pointing which way the wind is blowing in Tinseltown, politically and socially. Unfortunately, after 2023's horrible box office and 2024's ugly start, Hollywood is torn, unable to decide which direction to go. On the one hand, continue to push out content full of social messaging and agenda setting, or, on the other, make movies like Top Gun and make billions of dollars. It's a tough choice for them, for sure. However, in the end, Money will always win out. It may take a few years, but one day, sooner rather than later, we'll all see Hollywood turn back and remember why they wanted to make movies in the first place: to be famous, to be loved, and to be rich. Here's the reality of the moment. The Oscars were on March 10th, and I waited almost 4 days to create and post my reaction to what I saw. For the 20 million people who watched the awards, I'm guessing most of them have moved on already in their own mind. The annual Sunday night ceremony already a distant memory. Just snippets on YouTube that float by like everything else. Ryan Gosling singing I'm Just Ken. Al Pacino not giving a fuck and just opening the envelope so you get the hell out of there and go back home. And most of all, the clip that is most misunderstood and really tells you how unintelligent Kimmel and the rest of Hollywood really is. Reading a Truth Social post by former President Trump. There are two ways to look at this clip. Only one of them is right. The wrong way is to believe that Kimmel insulted the president, put him in his place, and really showed him who has the influence and the power. And if you think that, I feel sorry for you because you're playing checkers and the rest of us are playing chess. The right way to look at that moment is that for the entire night, the dreaded orange man was not mentioned. The Oscars are a media event, watched by millions, broadcast around the world, and the one thing they were not, up until that point of Kimmel's reciting of Trump's post, was about Donald Trump. So the former president did what he normally does. He made it about himself. He put the worm on the hook and Kimmel took the bait. The people who laughed at Kimmel's response to Trump were never going to vote for him anyway. It was not about that. Trump made Kimmel make the night about him, and Kimmel became his accomplice. And maybe that's the compass for Hollywood. Maybe that's what they really want, to be the hero again. And your hero is only as good as your villain. And who better to fill that role than old number 45? And that's what I got for you today. And with that, I'm still your reluctant gringo. And from south of the border, salute and al huevo.